Over 4th of July, I had the opportunity to camp at a private farm and forest sanctuary with a friend of mine from Eugene and met some of her really interesting friends. She is a wonderful person who brings together very, very interesting people every time I go to an event of hers. And one of those people is Tom Tortorich. He is a philosopher from Eugene. I hope you enjoy this kind of an interview. It's really more Tom talking about his ideas. And I do apologize in advance for the very awkward camera angles. The way we were sitting, there was really no good place for me to put my camera. So it really is more the ideas anyway and not really about the camera work. So this might be a video that you just want to have on in the background. If you're not into philosophy, that's totally fine. Just skip this one and I'll be back to van life. But, you know, going around and meeting interesting people is part of my van life. So if that interests you as well, then enjoy this video.
I'm Tom Tortorich, and I have a podcast called The Solution Revolution. I've written and self-published 4 books, a lot of them on what I call the evolution of thought and the way that we really are living in an evolving culture with a deeply evolving mindset, and exploring all the ways that that's happening. And from the standpoint of being hamsters on a wheel, what I call the 9 to 5 Monday morning hive mind, it seems kind of crazy, some of the mindset shifts that I describe. But nevertheless, there's quantum physics at play and law of attraction, and we're coming to see our world in a radically different way, beyond just the first 5 senses. This is necessitated by the global crises that are converging, and what's happening is human consciousness is popping before it's like we're on a train and maybe there's a wall and we're heading right towards the wall, and the conductor just keeps shoveling more coal into the furnace, and then the humans are like, how are we going to stop the train? And we're just popping with some creative solutions that I've never seen before in my life, and seems similar to the Renaissance of Leonardo da Vinci. I mean, it seems like that profound of a shift is underway in our lifetime, and that's pretty cool.
That is cool.
Yeah.
That's hopeful.
It is, and there's more who are thinking this way. It's not just me. There's Charles Eisenstein is one of my, I would call him inspirations, mentors even. His book, The More Beautiful World Our Hearts Know Is Possible, is such an inspiration. And he points out in a very realistic way, right, all of the core wounds that are causing us to act the way we act, and looking at some real mindset shifts that are happening.
And for people who are not familiar with Charles Eisenstein, it's my understanding that all of his books are available for free online.
I think it's Kindle and PDF, all that's available for free, and I like having a physical copy in my hand though, that just the smell and the touch of it.
Yeah.
But he is really actively living in the gift economy. He has a Patreon account, and all that's public. And when I logged onto his Patreon account, he's got quite a number of followers and is making a pretty good gift economy income that way that he can spend on I don't know, getting to speaking engagements, and it's pretty cool. I'm working on preparing a TED Talk. It's been a vision of mine to give a TED Talk for about the past 3 years, and I keep getting closer and closer to that goal. You talked about earlier about just following your joy, and in a way that can sometimes seen as I don't know, new age woo-woo, right? Let's just follow our joy and everything will be fine. You can't take it that far, but following my joy has really led me down the path of, I love public speaking, and I'm going to give a TED Talk, and I'm excited about that. When I live in pursuit of a passion, something that's really important to me, I wake up in the morning with just a zest for life that I just don't have when I was working my full-time hive mind job, and now that I'm doing passionate work. Wow, I feel just alive and happy. I'm doing my best to make a difference. What I want to talk about in TED is an idea of what I call positive futurism.
Okay.
And it's a genre of literature that I write in. We stop imagining a future world that's dystopian.
Right.
Because, if there's anything...
That makes me crazy.
Right? If there's anything at all to the law of attraction, and we imagine a dystopian world in all of our science fiction. What do you think is going to happen?
Right.
And so if there's nothing at all to the law of attraction, don't you think it'd be more beneficial anyway to stop thinking all these negative thoughts?
Yes.
So either way, you can't lose. You might win big or you might win
yeah.
small.
I like to ask, what if I'm wrong?
What if I'm wrong?
Yeah, what if I'm wrong? I still want to envision the world being a positive place.
Right. Am I doing any harm if I'm wrong and I'm living that way and I'm not harming anybody and I'm putting out positivity into the world? Maybe I'm naive, but I'd rather be naive than stuck in a matrix of a system that's obviously no longer working. And I also think if there's other people that are thinking the same way, I sure want to meet them.
Right.
And so I'm doing this kind of work ultimately to meet other people that are thinking like this. Mm-hmm. And how do we band together and what can we do?
And so who have you found so far?
Well, you're one of them.
Okay.
More and more people that are thinking this way and living into very alternative lifestyles. I'm just beginning to lead a weekly philosophy group in Eugene, and it's attracting a lot of really philosophically thinking-minded people. The types of solutions outside the box thinking that happens when an aggregate of people come together, to me it's just inspiring. Mm-hmm. And we empower each other to think differently. It's joyful. Mm-hmm. And if nothing else, people go back to their daily lives thinking, actually this isn't all there has to be. So if nothing else, it's a feeling of empowerment.
Right.
And getting out of victim mind. Albert Einstein. He said, problems cannot be solved from the same level of consciousness that created them. And what that really means is that if we're arguing against global warming, we're not going to stop it that way. We can't argue with it. It is.
That makes me think of the idea that you have to be for something. I mean, you can be against something, but you also have to provide that solution. People don't get up off their couch against something in the numbers that they get up off their couch for something.
Right. But we need to really come up with a for what.
Right, exactly. And
so anything we can think about, what are we for? I have an idea for children's books. They're called wake-up stories instead of bedtime stories. And it's just kind of clever, but it's all about framing. What if we were honest with our kids? From a very early age, the bedtime stories we led them were grandparents and parents and generations before you have led us into a kind of a bad world. And we're just honest, and that's the opening page of the children's book. Mm-hmm. And then we say, honestly, we don't know how to solve the problems that we've created. Mm-hmm. But you are coming into this world with an intelligence that is far superior and unconditioned to our own. And we're going to raise you in a way that does not condition you into the beliefs that we've held. We want to see what solutions you might have. And I'm sorry to lay this on you, but there's something that really needs to be done in our world.
You're writing these, I hope. Because that gave me chills.
That's what my TED Talk is about.
That's real, yeah.
It's real.
And empowering the kids to clean up this crap that we've left them.
And we're sorry we left you with this burden. There's nothing we can do. And I hate that you have to clean it up, but you're our only hope, the next generation. And our contribution to the next generation is to actively not teach them the conditioned beliefs.
Right.
You just actively empower them. Because I think they can do it. I know they can. Mm-hmm. But with our help. Which isn't to say, here's what you do, because we don't know.
Right.
What we need to say is, I think you can help.
Yeah.
And encourage that.
Yeah, and not to socialize them into the belief system that created the mess in the first place.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I keep thinking of the Four Agreements, Don Miguel Ruiz, and how he talks about the socialization and the story that goes along with the socialization, and what stories do we need to teach our kids? Right. What stories do we need to tell our kids?
I think it starts with being honest with them. Mm-hmm. Because for a while, and I wrote about this in my book, The Evolution of Thought, we keep thinking that each other are stupid or dumb in our culture. I mean, look at how many signs we have telling people what to do. I mean, we actively disempower people. And we think that kids have to learn from us, and we don't know what we're doing. Look at the mess we've created. We need to learn from our kids. We need to respect them. So what kind of morality can we raise them with? Blank slate morality, so they can come up with their own conclusions about things.
Especially not teaching them our hate.
Yeah. Teaching them unconditional love, acceptance, compassion, John Kabat-Zinn calls it Dharma comes to the West. He's the pioneer of mindfulness, MBSR. Really, compassion is coming to the West for really one of the first times in history. We are not a compassionate people. But we do have outliers like Bernie Sanders, whose philosophy, when asked about his spirituality, he said, when your child is hurting, I'm hurting. That's my best Bernie. That's compassion comes to the West. It's an outlying force still, but it's coming. And it's reaching critical mass. People are, to use the colloquial, waking up. And we get that confused with a kind of spiritual Buddhic enlightenment, which it has some elements of that. But waking up to me really means realizing that we've been lied to and conditioned, and seeing through the conditioning. I love seeing people's creative and clever way of just laughing at the problem. You know, taking it seriously to the degree we have to do something about it, but really just making light of it and saying this is just a joke. There's so many revolutions of thought mind that are going on. There's one I like called the authentic revolution, and it's just how to lead from a place of vulnerability and tenderness and authority that comes from authenticity. As far as the wake-up stories, when you ask me, am I writing them? Well, I've written one. It's called The Boy with the Rose-Colored Glasses. Really, the goal or the mindset is that I want this to be a collaborative effort. I want to put the idea out there and say, wake up stories instead of bedtime stories. And what does that mean to you? And I can imagine 50, 100 authors, children's book authors and novelists that are writing into positive futurism. And what do you guys come up with? How do you see a world that's not utopian or dystopian, but a realistic growth of what can happen if we teach our children to be unconditioned and help us solve this quantum problem?
Yeah.
But I want a collection. I want a publishing house, right? I want this to be a worldwide movement, a new genre of teaching children different things.
That's great. Yeah, I love it.
And I thought about wanting to get it into Waldorf schools and anybody who's doing this radical unschooling that you talked about. Anybody who's interested in alternative raising their children, you know? How can we give them this message? How can we distribute the ideas, disseminate the ideas? If that's Kindle, I'm open to that. If that's interactive media, who out there wants to do that? Because we all have a part. Self-select and do your part, whatever that is.
Well, thank you for sharing some ideas with us today.
Sure, absolutely.
I appreciate it. And so if you can share your social media again.
It's Tom Tortorich. The podcast is Solution Revolution. There's a Facebook page, Channeling the Flow. My main website is called Positive Enabler. That's where my books are for sale. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thank you. This is Joni with TheGalavan. Enjoy your journey.